Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the M44, the Tier 6 American SPG. This one's located on the southwest spawn of Westfield and it's under the command of RamTough. Now yes, we are continuing our series of M44 battles and this is a 2 replay video. Game on. Well, the M44 with a 155mm howitzer mounted in a swivel bracket on top of a Walker Bulldog hull. It's probably considered the best Arty in the game by many. Some like the M53, M55 better, but unfortunately it's been severely nerfed by Wargaming because of course the crybabies, the content creators, the CCs, the community contributors have all regard the M44 as probably the greatest nemesis for them. Fantastic first shot there by RamTough. He knew that Super Hellcat was going for that corner and he fired the shot in and the guy backed into the shell. Yeah, they've been crying and whining and saying, oh, we can't, what are you going to do about the M44 to Wargaming? And Wargaming says, well, okay, we'll nerf that Arty more than all the other Artys we're nerfing. Basically, as Klaus Kellerman says, they should have just done KISS, keep it simple, stupid, and just reduce the number of Arty in the game to just 1 or 2. And that would have solved the problem of Arty focus, but instead what they've done is they've ruined the game and now Arty is totally ineffective, or at least virtually ineffective. A lot of Arty players are trying to recover and trying to do well with the changes, but it's very, very difficult to do so. In fact, most people are just giving up Arty altogether because they don't see the point anymore. Which is what Wargaming wanted. They wanted people to give up playing Arty so that the content creators and the community contributors wouldn't come under so much focus. Actually, saying content creators is a bit unfair, but you know who I mean. It's basically those people who make the most noise in the Wargaming community. Basically, people who have large followings on Twitter. Well, look at that. 4 tanks lined up together, 4 heavy tanks lined up together. You don't often get that, but yes, it's an Arty player's wet dream, you might say, that they all sit together in the same spot at the same time, because then, well, you just load the gold and off you go. But back then, there wasn't any gold ammunition for the M44. There is now, but it's been emasculated, so you wouldn't be able to do a lot of damage on these tanks. But the good thing is that when you get tanks grouping together like that, Arty can have a real influence on the battle. They can't now because of the changes in 1.13, but back then an Arty could actually do so much damage to the enemy heavy tanks, and to any of their tanks for that matter, that they would actually change the course of a battle. And you see, this is something that the community contributors refuse to acknowledge. Arty really can change battles. Just the other day I was pointing out to somebody that it often happens that if an Arty player targets one specific tank and then uses his targeting key to indicate that to others, then other tanks in the team might follow their cues and start firing at the same target, and you get what's called concentration of fire, and that leads to a pretty incredible massacre of the enemy tanks one by one. We can see RamTough has actually noticed that one flank has fallen altogether, rather than the flank along the south side of the map. We do have a couple of tanks in the valley, a Scorpion and a T20, but the trouble is, I'm afraid, that there's nothing to stop the enemy light tanks, the T71, the 5916 and their VK3002D from actually coming towards our cap. That's better to see the identity of those particular tanks. The Scorpion is the Tier 7 American one, that's the one up in the valley. Okay, so RamTough's targeting the VK3001P. And oh, just before he fires, it was taken out and he hits the target with a direct hit and gets a clang instead of an explosion. Just goes to show how accurate he was. But he's moved so close to the cliff that it's now very difficult to get a shot into these targets. Of course, you know that the Arty shell has to go up and come down, but if you get close to the cliff, then it becomes very, very difficult for you to shoot the shell up because the cliff might be in the way. Well, the VK3002D's turned up at the cap area and he spotted the other M44, but he's also shooting it out with that T20. Both M44s are now focusing on this area, but the thing is that the enemy Arty are also focusing over here and they're trying to get RAM and the other M44. Here comes the 15916. He's also, is he going the opposite way? He's going the opposite way. Now the scores are even at the moment, and oh, whilst RAM was looking at the 5916, the other M44 fired at and hit the other enemy, the VK3002D, and he's just got taken out, but RAM takes him out. Or did he? No, he didn't get the kill. It was actually the T20, but he did help because he did get 24 hit points of damage. We lost the T20 to the T71. Was it the... Nope. There's Super Hellcat. I'm getting all the tanks wrong. I must be Jingles. No. Jingles doesn't get it wrong. He does it on purpose, actually. I'm pretty sure he does. RAM tries a rough shotgun on the T71. Doesn't get a hit. But he does have a fast reload. 16.69 seconds. Even though he's not using premium consumables. Of course, that reload time has now changed dramatically with 1.13 because of course they've nerfed the loading time. Here comes the enemy 5916. Go for shotgun. Oh, he gets him. He splashed it behind the guy. He actually auto-aimed on and there was a slight lag, but he got the hit, and now unfortunately the T71 comes in for a ram. Rams himself to death on Ram Tough. But in doing so, he actually gives Ram Tough a kamikaze medal because of course the T71 is tier 7 and Ram Tough was tier 6. So ramming himself to death like that actually gives a medal to Ram Tough. There's only one teammate left. It's the Tiger P. He's got 2 kills and he's at the enemy cap area now. He just wiped out the enemy M44, or rather one of them because there's another one. And we're now following his adventure. He's down to 4 hit points. Just got hit by the other M44 and it looks to me like he probably won't survive. And in fact, the enemy is capping at the other end. That is the Super Hellcat. And so, yes, it's very, very unlikely that he's going to win. In fact, the M44 is still continuing to fire at him, which kind of indicates that the M44 must know where he is and must be either able to see him and probably up in that tree line up there, or alternatively he's very good at guessing where this Tiger P is. There's no chance he can drive back to the enemy to his own caps in time. There's the M44. Yes, he was within sight, but he's actually been spotted now behind the bridge arches. And it looks to me like he's not caring about the fact that he's been spotted. He's actually trying to get a shotgun kill. Tiger P's more interested in getting back to the cap. Yep, there he is. M44 is now in cover because he knows that he could be wiped out very quickly by this Tiger P. Yeah, I'm sorry that this is definitely going to be a loss. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the M44 misses with his last shot, but it's all over. And the first game is a defeat. The second replay is by Sad Phil in his M44 on the south spawn of Abbey. Game on. Oh, that lovely skin that's created by Sir Rusty. Sad Phil's moving off to a firing position. obviously over in this corner behind the rock, instead of bushes and trees over here, allows you to shoot up the road which actually leads to the Abbey. Oh, is he changing around? Yeah, he's okay. He's ready to go. He's lined up and he's now aiming for the enemy. I thought he was going to move over a little bit further, but in fact actually he's staying where he is. Okay, an enemy tank has been spotted. It's actually a tank destroyer. T-25-2 got spotted by our EZ-8. I think he shot at the EZ-8 and that's what revealed his position. You can see the EZ-8 actually did lose some hit points. He's down to 70%. So at least one shot actually hit him. In the meantime, he's noticed the T-34-85M coming down the river road. Rounds out on him and 21 hit points. He was a little bit late with the shot. But the T-34-85M died and he actually picked up all of the hit points, or rather the rest of the hit points, as stun assist. Gone back to that T-25-2. Got a Panther M10 over on the west side of the map, in amongst the channels, we should say, the inner channel. Rounds out, direct hit, and he is stunned. He's only lost 16% of his health. Okay, in the village we've got a 40 TP. He actually went in via one of the other entrances to the village, one of the gaps between the houses. It's actually kind of advisable sometimes to do that if there's an enemy tank inside the Abbey grounds. In the meantime, two enemy tanks have made it to this corner. Now we've got an IS-2 shielded as well as that Panther M10, and a Cromwell Beast just turned up. Rounds out on the IS-2, direct hit for 227, stuns the Panther as well. So it certainly wouldn't have been a good idea for Sad Phil to go over to the far west of the map, because the rest of the team didn't really send enough forces over there. If he had gone over there, he might have been in trouble. Oh, he got two there. T-28 HTC and the Panther M10 with that shot. And he's picking up more stun assist. Again, as I said before, when enemy tanks line up like this, it makes it very easy to generate huge amounts of damage on them. And that's why the M44 and all the fast-firing Artys can really have a crucial effect upon a battle. Okay, he's got a T-28 HTC and Panther M10 together there. He fires it in and definitely hits the T-28, but I suspect he also damaged the Panther. Yes, he did. Look, they're both sitting next door to each other and the Panther's tracked. And that's as a result of that last shot. In fact, the Panther's down to his last hit points. And now he's out the game. Excellent. Yes, Arty can have a substantial effect upon the battle. And I think what we're going to see now, since the changes in 1.13, is that Arty won't be able to help out. In fact, some players, some content creators and community contributors have actually been asking Arty for help, but of course Arty can't help them now because Arty has been totally emasculated by Wargaming exchanges. It makes it impossible for us to help any battle because basically we've lost the ability to do damage in any significance. And of course some people are still progressing on their protest, myself included. We will continue to protest and refuse to take part in battles because Wargaming has made these changes. They didn't need to make these changes. It was only the majority of the community contributors who are actually complaining about Arty. But all they needed to do to make the changes, as Klaus Kellerman pointed out, was reduce the number of Arty. It didn't need to have a huge change to the shells, to the reworking of the M44, to change all of that. It just wasn't necessary. Instead, they've overcomplicated it, which is something Wargaming is a habit of doing, and they just made it far worse. Many non-Arty players, many of the people who complained about Arty were absolutely hated, stunned, and they felt that they were just being kept in the battle for a little while longer so that they could then be killed by a tank rather than by an Arty. Indeed, Quickie Baby actually mentioned that he would prefer it that he was taken out of the battle with the first shot by the Arty, so he could go into another game rather than to linger around in the battle, stunned, unable to do anything about it, and eventually get wiped out. Sandfield's having a good battle. He's up to 1.4k of damage already. He's got one kill, that Panther M10. And he's holding the enemy back. In fact, we've got the enemy camp area at the moment. And you've got another hit there on the KV-3, who was wiped out by our Super Hellcat. Yep, our guys are actually holding the cap at the other end. In fact, we've got two in the cap at the other end. And the way it's looking at the moment, unless the enemy gets constant resets, they're going to lose this game in 10 seconds. The Chi-2 has come back to do a reset, and he's got a reset. But will he be able to keep doing it? Probably not. Rounds out in the T-28. Another hit. Slowly but surely, we're whittling away the health of these tanks down this end of the map. The Chi-2 has got another reset. In fact, both tanks have now decided to leave the cap and kill the Chi-2, so he's out the equation. There's only 5 enemy vehicles left. Well, the Chi-2's gone, and we've lost sight of the enemy down at this end of the map. Ah, no, I said that too soon. The T-28 comes back into sight. I noticed an empty slot actually on Sandfield's consumables, and I suspect that that's because he did or was using premium consumables, and now he's got another kill, and yet he's actually probably didn't replace that premium consumable after his last game. Normally somebody would have a fire extinguisher, or they'd have the crate of Coca-Cola for the M44, but Sandfield's not got that. But he has got a fairly good reload time actually, 16.32 seconds without premium consumables. He would actually be under 16 seconds on his reload if he did have premium consumables. And there's the Arty, the FV304. And from this angle, he can hit that guy. Rounds out, but oh, stay there. Yes! 3 kills now for Sandfield. Only 2 enemies left, the AT-15A and their Oni. And the Oni is up there as well. So it looks like it's no cap kill all now. Rounds out. Direct hit, 133. He's now over 2.3k. That's a lot of damage for an M44. Sort of damage you'd normally expect from an M53, M55. Rounds out. Oh my god, this is going to be dangerously close to his own teammate. And the kill shot for the AT-15A comes from our AT-15A. And that was the last enemy. So this game ends in a victory. Here's the end of battle results. And in the first game, Ramtoff managed to get a 3rd class tanker on the Westfield map in his M44. And he got some rather unusual medals. Medals which I doubt you will ever see in the future, or very likely to be very few people getting them. He managed to get a cold-blooded medal. Yes, he took out 2 enemy light tanks, and they had to be at least not more than 100 meters away from him when he took them out. So yes, nowadays with Arty having less alpha, they're not going to be able to shotgun and kill an enemy tank either with a standard HE round, unless that enemy tank has very low hit points already. But he managed to do it twice, not just to the 5916, who he actually shotgunned at close range, but also to the T71DA, who rammed himself to death against Ramtoff's hull, and so he ended up with a cold-blooded medal. He also managed to get a kamikaze medal because he took out an enemy tank which was actually one tier higher than him, at least 1 tier higher, by ramming it. And of course it was the T-71 that rammed into him, but of course the T-71 died in the process, so of course that means that he ends up with a kamikaze medal. He got a duelist medal for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, and he got an eye for an eye as well, because of course he died in the process of killing the T-71 who killed him. He got a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits, in this one he managed to get 10, and he got a Confederate medal because he hit more of the enemy than anyone else on his team, at least 6 tanks subsequently taken out by other teammates, and his win rate from that game was 2025. Unfortunately, it was a defeat, but he went down fighting, which is always what we like to see for Arty. Even if you are going to die, you just make the enemy pay for it as hard as you can. And it wasn't his fault that the rest of the team didn't put in a huge effort. At least he can say he did his best on that game. So let's have a look at the team scores. He didn't get the highest damage in the game. That went to the T20 on his own team with 1,908 hit points. That guy came back to defend the cap area to save the Arty. Unfortunately, he did die in the process. The next highest damage was 5916, the one that he actually shotgunned at close range, 1,616 hit points. And the next highest after that was the T-71 DA. Of course, the other one he killed, 1,569 hit points of damage. Ram Tough managed. He was unfortunately well down the table with 443, but the high scorer was 5916 with 997. The T-71 DA got 811, and both of those players were taken out by Ramtough, and 707 went to the KV-1S. He fired 13 rounds in that game, 4 direct hits, 1 penetration and 10 splash. Damage of 1,154 hit points, of which 833 were at more than 300 meters. Yes, he did a lot of close range shooting actually in that one, but he had to because the enemy got very close to him. 3 hits received from the enemy, 2 penetrations, 1 non-penetration from the enemy tanks. The 5916 and of course the T-71 DA were the culprits, and of course that VK3002D was trying to kill him as well. He damaged 8 of the enemy, killed 2, did 290 hit points of stun assist off 8 stuns. On a premium count, he earned 23,162 credits, got 5,361 for courageous resistance. That's because he got an epic or battle hero medal in a losing or drawn game, and in this one he managed to get a kamikaze. 28,523 credits together, and after repair and ammunition resupply took away a profit of 19,958 credits. He got 1 bond from the game for a mission achievement, 664 XP, 396 for courageous resistance, took away 1,060 experience points altogether. So not a bad game there by Ramtough. He did his best. He got a very rare medal, which, as I said, I doubt you will see any of those during this current client iteration. If you do see any, they'll be far less than in any previous games or previous versions of the client. In fact, it might be worth tracking how badly Arty has been affected to see how many cold-bloodeds were awarded in each of the seasons prior to 1.13. And I suspect that you'll find that in 1.13 there'll probably be virtually none, and you'll see a few in the previous clients. And if you go all the way back to 9.18, the change where the stun came in, you'll notice there was huge numbers of cold-bloodeds back then, because of course Arty was able to one-shot an enemy tank at shotgun at close range with HE, because of course then HE had full effect, and of course you could get penetrations on the enemy tanks. So if we look at the next game, that was Sam Phil, and he got an ace tanker in his M44 in that game. It's a first ace tanker because he's got the scrolls underneath. You don't get that the first time. He also got a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. In fact, he got 12. A Gauze medal for doing more damage than 8 times the hit points of his own vehicle. And he got a high caliber as well for dealing the most damage in the game overall. Damage, the win 8 rather, not the damage, 7,121, which is Super Unicum standard. Let's have a look at team score. Well, he didn't get the highest damage in the game. That's the surprising thing, because the highest damage was actually the AT-15A. He got 3,147 hit points of damage, but Samphil only got 2,844. The reason that Samphil got the high caliber is that the AT-15A must have shot one of his own teammates, probably by mistake. But back in this particular version of the client, 1.9, I think that you could actually do team damage if you accidentally shot one of your own teammates, because they didn't take team damage out of the game for some time. And so I suspect that the AT-15A accidentally shot, or on purpose shot, one of his own teammates, and he was disqualified from the high caliber, and it went to the next person in damage, and that was Samphil. So Samphil got a medal that he didn't expect to get, or he was doing a lot of damage, but I don't think he actually, certainly wasn't the highest scorer in the game. When it came to kills, it was that AT-15A. He got 5 kills, and we can see that Samphil got joint second place with 3 kills alongside the IS-2 shielded on the enemy team. When it came, and also the Chi-Ri on his own team rather, and when it came to base XP, he's in second place again. To Samphil, and 1,089 went to the Tiger 1, and those are the only 3 players who managed to get over 1,000 base XP. Samphil fired 21 rounds, got 10 direct hits but no penetrations on the enemy, 26 splash as well. Of course, that was when the tanks were grouping together, so he was hitting more than one tank at the same time. 2,844 hit points of damage, of which 2,746 were at more than 300 meters. He damaged 8 of the enemy, killed 3, and did 1,350 hit points of stun assist off 22 stuns. Arty won't appear at the top of the table, they'll be well down the table because other people would be doing the damage instead of them. Still, I think Samphil could actually improve his stats because he wasn't using premium consumables in that game, and it would certainly help if he did actually use them, because it does decrease the reload time and increase the accuracy of the gun. I hope you enjoyed both those replays. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.